Welcome students to the update right here on the HYFNTV network. It's our mission to bring unfiltered, unbiased information to our viewers. Here on the update, we're interviewing Governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General candidates from each party. These folks are asking for you to vote for them to lead our great state. In this primary candidate interview series, all candidates have been asked the same questions, and all candidates have been invited to speak as well. So sit back, relax, and let's hear from them directly. And then you decide on who you like to choose to vote for on August 2nd. Thank you for joining HYFNTV and the update. Here at the update, we love to bring viewers such as yourself news about what is going on in your world. And here in Arizona, we have a big election. And most of our viewers are first-time voters, class of 2021 and class of 2022. And so today we are bringing in some candidates that are running for office. And we wanted to do a long style form debate where we had no interruptions and everyone could up their points. But for various reasons, some folks chose not to do that. Now, Scott wasn't one of them.
No, I wasn't one of them.
He wanted to do the debate.
I wanted to do the debate.
So what we have chose to do was go ahead and bring each candidate in one-on-one and ask the same questions we were going to ask anyways, because our viewers want to know. So we really want to get to know who you are. So I want to ask you, is your first time voting back in the day? Tell these new first time voters what you experienced, how you went through it, how it felt, and your experience to get them ready for their first time.
So the first time I began to vote was in the McCain race when McCain ran against Obama. And though McCain wasn't a great choice, he was, in my opinion, at the time a better choice than Obama, so I did vote John McCain back in that election. I voted in the general election. Back in those days, I didn't vote in primaries. I didn't know much about politics, but things right now are pretty contentious. I believe in order to get the right candidates to win in the general elections, we're going to have to focus on the primaries this year. The primaries are very important. If we don't get the right candidate into the office to run in the general, we're not going to have a viable candidate that can take down the Democrats on the other side in the general election. We need to vote in the primary this year, guys. Now, my sons just graduated Mesa High, Mesa football, by the way, and they just graduated Mesa High. Both my sons are 18 years old. They're registered Republicans. They will be voting in the primary this year. They're 18-year-old boys, okay. And they will be voting this year in the primary for me, for Scott Neely, for Arizona governor, which, you know, I'm their dad. Obviously, they're going to vote for me.
Better. They're going to to stay, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So here's the thing. My son, too, he's class of 2021. Mm-hmm. This is his first time voting in a gubernatorial race. Mm-hmm. And when we polled our viewers, we're big on trying to figure out what our viewers want, what they need to know, and the whole jazz. So we polled them. We said, how much do you participate in the primary in general? And we found out that 22% of them said we don't even participate.
Gotta get involved, guys.
They show up and they'll do the general because they've already registered a party. They have an idea where they kind of stand politically. Yeah. But they don't really want to get into the mess of the primary. So what would you say to my son, to your sons, other than the fact they got to vote for dad?
To your son, to my sons, and to all the youth, and to all the youth out there in Arizona at these schools, at these high schools that are now 18 or now registered to vote, this is probably the most important primary election in my lifetime. We need to pick the right candidate if we're going to take down the other side in the general election. We're running against Democrats that are very smart and they're very good at what they do. If we're going to take them down, what we're going to need is a candidate that's of the people, for the people, by the people, and who will represent you, the middle class. Arizona has the largest middle class, especially in Maricopa County, probably in the entire United States. We have the largest middle class county. We have a lot of blue collar workers, and we need a candidate that can resonate with both Democrats and Republicans in the general election and win. I believe that candidate is me, Scott Neely.
Okay, well, let's jump right into the issues. We emailed you a list of the issues so you knew what we were going to talk about today. Mm-hmm. Every candidate is going to have the same questions. Yep. So I'm going to put up on the screen these questions for folks so they can see what the question is as I read it. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's check this out. All right, Scott. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
Every candidate on their website has a mission. Mm-hmm. Tell me your mission, tell me what's about, and make it as easy to understand for an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old to understand.
So my mission is to show that you can have two perspectives if you vote for a candidate like myself. So being that I'm middle class, I'm a in-the-office small business owner, type 70 words a minute, build websites, do online marketing, but I'm also a guy who goes outside and gets on job sites, lays block, finishes, and pours concrete. So with me, you're getting a candidate that's layered. I'm not just a monolithic candidate. You're also getting a younger candidate who's tech savvy. Blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies they're the rave right now, and that's where the future's going. We need to look into that technology, and we need to see how we can implement it in our futures and our lives.
Okay. With blockchain and tech, what are your thoughts on how, you have Warren Buffett out there saying that I'd buy a house, that's an asset, or I'd buy property, or I'd buy these things, but I wouldn't jump into blockchain because there's nothing tangible there. Do you know enough about it? Is it something that you're kind of just watching and learning?
It's something that I'm learning about myself personally. I haven't stepped into it heavily. I haven't invested in it personally, but it's something that everybody's doing right now, especially the youth.
Right.
And it's something that we have to look into because I believe it's going to become the future. Blockchain basically puts its timestamp on any transaction that's ever been done. So you really can't hack blockchain.
Right.
You really can't manipulate blockchain. And that's why so many of the youth love it. And the government can't manipulate blockchain, so which is even better. We want freedom in commerce, right?
The understanding is why it was created. The understanding that, from my understanding, why it was created was for the fact that it couldn't be manipulated by other foreign currencies.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So that's your mission. Let's jump in some other questions.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let's talk Arizona economy. So we just passed an $18 billion budget. So
largest budget ever passed in the history of Arizona, omnibus, and I think we've spent way too much personally.
So, well, let me tell you, what did you like about it?
What I liked about it was the investments in future water exploration. We do need to do some research and develop new water technologies so that we can provide water to the state of Arizona as the Colorado River is depleting.
Okay, what did you hate about it?
We're throwing more money at education. Right now, prior to this bill, 56% of all Arizona's budget every year was going to education. So now we've added more money towards education, and then I guess we paid off some K through 12 debt. What was that? I'd like to know.
Yeah.
I'll look into that when I'm governor.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what that was about.
So those things you hated about it. Next thing, what would you have done as governor if you were to try to send your people down to the legislature to give some guidance? What were some of the guidance that you would have given as governor?
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to carve out of the state college system and the community college system and even at the high school level, I'd like to carve out trades. We need to bring back wood shop and metal shop on the high school level. We need to put trade schools into the college systems because not every student is an academic, right? Not every student is going to go into technology sector. Some students need to be pushed into the sectors they might better have skill in. You don't take a long distance runner and put him on a lineman position on a football team, right?
Right.
But in the same respect, you don't take a lineman and put him into a long distance runner position, right? So you develop these kids into the skills that you see they might have, and you push them in that direction. As it stands now, it's all monolithic. We're pushing them all towards academic, and that's all. I'd say 70% of the students are being pushed into academics. They get out, they get a college degree, and it doesn't really fit what they should have done and the skills they could have had they gone to a trade school. If we brought back trade schools, these kids would finish a trade school in roughly 2 years, and then they would end up being able to go into a job that could pay anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 to $100,000 within a couple of years of getting started. Okay. And then these kids could then buy a home and start their lives at a younger age. I believe going into college is only for a certain segment of the population. It's not for everybody.
So there's an old data point that I'm aware of, 2017 to 16, that said 80% of our population has no college education. So that's 80% of Arizona's population. Which to me tells you that we have a great working force. We have a lot of folks working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. So we're talking about living wage.
But I want to develop real skills, and real skills, drywall, framing,
things that can't
concrete,
be automated.
masonry, things that cannot be automated. I want to develop those real skills because those are jobs, paid in piecework, that can make you about $100,000 a year, up to $100,000 a year.
If they had access to more vocational schooling,
we need
even
access
adult
to
vocational
right.
schooling.
What we need is EVITs all over the state.
That retraining
that can train these kids on how to do these different trade skills. You got HVAC, you got electrical, you got plumbing, you got roofing, you got framing, you got concrete, you got masonry. There's so many trade skills that we could bring into these state college systems, carve out a section of that for those kids, for those skills, get these kids those skills, get them out on the road and making money at a very young age. I know people right now that are working at the mines making $100,000 a year. I know people working in concrete making $100,000 a year. These are young people. We need to get more young people involved.
So you
in that.
say in the budget you would spend more money making sure we can build our future education with different
Correct.
tech schools
Yes,
and things like
yes.
that.
I would put more money
help the
towards
economy.
the vocational side. That's what I put
And this
the
is
money
an
towards.
investment more.
Yeah, it's more of an investment. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well,
It would create a better tax base. It would
Sure.
create higher paying
More
jobs,
workers, yeah.
and then obviously that's payroll tax. That's a better tax base. Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's jump into our next topic.
sure.
All right, so if you've been downtown Phoenix, but if you've actually really been anywhere downtown where the light rail can get to,
Yeah.
Glendale, Goodyear, Mesa, homelessness has run amok.
Homelessness has
We've
exploded.
done stories on the update where we went down to the camps.
Yeah.
It's like their own rules, their own little villages happening, thousands plus. The cities have policies that some help create the situation. As the executive officer of the government of Arizona, you have to deal with all these other mini executives of every city. How do you plan on dealing with this problem?
So I was down off 12th Avenue in Madison at Cass, where the homeless shelter is, and where there's thousands of people set up in tents right now, about a month and a half ago. I spent 4 hours down there. I talked to the people. It's segmented out, sort of like prison is, by race. I didn't know that when I went down there. I went down there not realizing that, so I parked in the section that was segmented off with mostly black folks. I didn't see color or anything like that. They were a little bit edgy with me at first, not sure who it was, what I was trying to do. I was actually dressed in my work clothes. I had just got off work that morning. So I went down there and I was feeding them, okay? And I was registering to vote.
Sure.
Some of them wanted to register to vote. I registered several people to vote. We talked for many hours, about 4 hours, and what I discovered down there was at that homeless shelter, for example, they have multiple administrators sucking in big amounts of money into their pockets. They're getting fed money by feds and by state, and a lot of that money that's going to those shelters are not filtering out to the street. They're not filtering out to the actual homeless population, the homeless people.
Where's it going?
To the administrators. It's kind of like what's happening in schools. It's going to the administrators, not to the teachers. Well, in the case of the homeless population, it's going to the administrators, not to the people outside the homeless shelters that are actually looking for food, water, and help. I believe that we need to maybe take something like, for example, I was talking to one of the homeless folks, and he says, hey, why don't we take something like the old Fiesta Mall, and why don't we turn that into a giant mega homeless shelter? And I said, well, okay, I guess that's something we could look at if I was governor. Maybe we could even turn that into a trade school. Maybe we could even turn it into a center to do rehab. Maybe we could make it a trifecta, a center to do rehab, a trade school, and a place to put a roof over their head until they can get on their feet. Now, we're not saying we're going to keep you there forever and take care of you for the rest of your life. This is not a care home. It's a way to get back on your feet. We need to create programs so we can get some of these folks back on their feet.
A pathway out.
Yeah, we need to give them a pathway out. I even talked to people at the homeless camp that actually were working minimum wage jobs in construction. But this one particular man I was talking to, he's single, he doesn't have a spouse, and his take-home pay, he's making about $600 a week, but his take-home pay is under $500 a week. And at under $500 a week, with apartments rents being as high as $2,000 a month, this man cannot afford an apartment and food. So what did he choose? He chose to live in the homeless shelters or the homeless tent camps and be able to buy himself some food, which is pretty sad because he's actually working 5 days a week trying to provide an income for himself.
So truly the working poor.
He's the working poor, that man.
So the question is, we don't want to keep him there.
No.
But what you would, I guess,
He
answer
didn't-
the question, what you would do to these mini cities that have this, these groups are taking state money and they're not letting it trickle into the streets like it's supposed to.
Trade schools would help that man working in construction because he's
I guess
a low
let me ask
level.
this, would you start having different oversight or strings attached to everything?
We need
that
to
comes from the
attach
state?
strings. We need to attach strings on the amount of administrators they can hire. And the money needs to filter to the people. Just like in the classrooms and in
Should
the
they be
schools.
sending
It needs to
reports?
filter to the children.
Should they be sending reports?
Absolutely.
Every quarter,
Absolutely.
maybe this is what was spent on. This is
Yep.
how it was
And we should have a department that will audit.
And we don't want to keep them there. I like the idea
Yeah.
of a pathway out.
Yeah, we need a pathway out.
I'm going to ask every candidate that question because this is a real problem.
It is.
And since COVID, folks that never thought they'd be homeless are finding themselves homeless.
That's true. I met some people there that
I've
found
met
themselves homeless.
I've met folks personally that are like, holy cow, not in a million years, but I lost my company, and I'm this, and the snowball happened. A lot of them took care of their people, and then they took themselves last, and now they find themselves without a home. So, you know, I hope that we can hear more between now and, you know, August 2nd about the plans for that, because I think that's something that definitely has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
So I want to put this next graphic up on the screen because there's a lot of information about the plug out here, but the information leads to a question. So let's jump into education. I know we've talked about it a little bit on the edges.
Yep.
So let's talk about education.
So I noticed something. I went to my son's high school a couple of months ago to talk to a counselor about a certain situation. Well, she said I needed to talk to one of the five. She said one of the vice principals is what she said. Right. And I said one of them, and she goes, "Yeah, we have 5. We're building a bigger office. Next year we'll have 6." I said, "What?" I said, "What's going on with that?" She goes, "Oh, well, you know, we need more vice principals." And I said, "Let me ask you a question. How many counselors do you have here?" She said, "Oh, 8 academic, 4 guidance. We've got department heads over math, science, English, history, physical education, and these are $80,000 a year jobs, these counselors and these department heads, and then $80,000 to $100,000 a year jobs, vice principals, multiple. Why are we multiplying the amount of vice principals? You need 1 per school." So when I graduated high school 22 years ago, it was 1 vice principal per school. So Mesa High tells me, well, we have a big school, we got 3,500 kids. I graduated from a high school with 5,000 kids. We only had 1 vice principal. It's all you need. I don't understand why they're throwing money. They dangle this carrot constantly and say teachers need more money, and I agree with that. The teachers do need more money. But then they dangle that carrot and give the money to hiring another administrator rather than filtering more money to teachers. Red for Ed got the teachers a $400 pay raise per year. What's $400 do with the price of inflation being up by 11% in Arizona? It does nothing. Right. But yet we're hiring all these administrators. It's wrong. It's criminal in my opinion. And I think the money needs to go to the students. It needs to filter to the students in the classrooms. It needs to get to the teachers. Okay, let's go over some data real quick and let me get your point real quick. Your opinion and your points on it, okay? Yeah. So, like I said, we'll put this graphic up on screen. It's a lot to take in. According to scholaroo.com, Arizona ranks 47th for the least educated, 38th for educational attainment, 48th for school quality, and 48th in the number of college universities per 100,000 adults. Scholaroo also found the following. Arizona has the highest spend per pupil in the U.S. So pumping money into this system clearly isn't the solution at all. I've never heard that we had the highest spending per pupil in the U.S. I don't think that's true. According to the scholaroo.com. I don't think Scholaroo is right about that one, but this was 2020. Okay, it might have changed. That's what it came off of. But we've spent the most per student with what they found. Okay. With that being said, I think we've touched a little bit. Spending is not the problem. It's not the problem. It's where you're spending. That's the problem. And how you're spending. It's the management. That's right, the management of the funds. Okay, so let's jump into the next big question. I think we've really covered the spending. You're saying that it's getting stuck at the administrative level and it is not trickling down to the classroom. And we know parents are getting asked to bring in tissues and crayons and stuff to the classroom. That's right. And I'm going, for real? Like, what are taxes for? Well, listen. But they're not getting, clearly the money's not getting there. They wouldn't be asking us for it. That's right. If we're spending that kind of money. Yeah, that's right. So I think we got your position on that. It needs to get to the classroom. Yep. I'm going to move to a little bit more controversial. Let's do it. Title IX. Title IX. A federal law passed, I want to say in the 60s, I believe. I may be wrong on the date. When they created the Department of Education, is that what we're talking about? No, Title IX was a law that was passed. That was a federal law that said any school that offers sports, they have to have it for boys and girls. Okay. Now, when they wrote this, that was all about fairness for women to have equal opportunity, equal rights, equal access. They never anticipated this trans situation. Yeah. Now, Florida, because it's a federal law, DeSantis last April, he went out and he created his legislature created a bill that was women's protection law, women in sports protection. Basically stating if you were born a male, you can, even if you have a transition, you cannot play sports and compete
as a woman, because the whole situation was built because of scholarship problems. Women were not getting equal scholarship opportunities as men because they weren't allowed to play the sports that men were allowed to play, so they had to open that up. Well, now
we have the opposite
we have
problem.
the opposite,
Yes.
because we had the big situation where the swimmer was 400th in men, and then became female and has taken scholarships away from all these top swimmers.
And if you notice, when females transition to male, we don't see that being a problem in sports. It's only when males transition to female that we see the problem and we see the unfairness.
So, the question I'm going to ask, and I hear you, and I don't want to give an opinion either way. This is Scott Neely, for governor, telling the folks who are going to vote, tell the folks, are you going to be asking your legislature to put out a bill just like they did in Florida?
Absolutely. It is wrong, and it is totally unfair for somebody who's been a man for many, many, many years, and then in college deciding to transition, and then jump on a women's sports team, and become a swimmer, and become the #1 swimmer in the nation. I think it's totally wrong. And it's obviously slanted and unfair towards women. It's slanted away from women. It's taking a woman's right to be able to compete away from her. It's unmotivating women. I mean, if I was a woman and I was in that situation, would I be motivated to stay in my sport if I knew I had to compete with somebody that I could never beat, no matter how hard I tried?
So question. Are you willing to compromise as the Olympics have, where they've said if you've tested a certain amount of...
No, not willing to compromise on that, no.
It's a
it's a non-starter for me.
Okay.
Not willing to compromise on that, not at all.
Perfect.
Not saying I'm against trans people or gay people or whatever.
Sure.
Have no problem with those people.
Okay.
But things must be fair for women. I'm looking out for a woman's right.
Okay. All right. So that takes us really into our next big topic, where we're talking about some of these civil issues and civil liberties that are happening.
Right.
We just saw what happened at the Supreme Court. We saw the riots down at our own Capitol.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Where folks had to sneak out the back door because it was so bad. We had the pepper spray protesters. We, as in our government,
as in our government,
police force.
That's crazy.
Not what we see as the right to assemble and the right to assembly and free speech. It went a little past that.
It went past
like that. So, with that being said, Arizona's been a very conservative state, a very pro-life state. We're seeing the pushback. Talk to us about your commitment.
This is a very serious topic, okay? Sure. And this is women's health, and I totally agree with that. But it's also the child's health, and you got to be responsible, right? So if you're going to have sex and you're going to not use protection and not use contraceptives, and you end up in a situation where you're pregnant, and then you let that pregnancy go on for many weeks, I don't believe you should abort the baby. I am 100% pro-life. But if you are responsible, I mean, there are certain things like the day after pill, or otherwise known as Plan B. I mean, if you stop the egg and the sperm from actually connecting with each other, if you stop life before it starts, now you're not killing a child. You know what I'm saying? But if you allow it to get many weeks in and then you want to abort it, I think it's quite selfish to do that.
So for those that we're in a GOP primary. Okay. Everyone's touting their big flag of I'm pro-life, I'm pro-life. Now, I'll also tell you this as well. On the other side, we're going to be talking to the Democrat candidates.
That's right.
They're going to be talking about how wrong you guys
how wrong
are,
it is, yeah.
and how you're taking away rights.
Here's where I'm different.
I want you to answer this for the 19, 20-year-olds who now are looking at it through the lens of science. They now are, most of our viewers, okay, they're first-time voters, and they're being told on one side that it's murder. They're being told on the other side that you're taking away a woman's health.
And here's
so
how you
make your argument for why you're the guy that when you say it, you mean it, and you're not a flip-flopper. You're not just saying what the crowd wants to hear. So give me your passion.
So here's where I differ. So in the last debate, Carrie Lake and Karen Taylor Robinson said they were against contraceptives, or in other words, birth control. They're against Plan B. They're against the morning after pill. I'm not against that. I think if you use contraceptives responsibly, it is a women's health issue. I know many women have problems with periods, and contraceptives actually help with periods, by the way.
Sure.
So it's something that I don't agree with getting rid of or abolishing. Why would we abolish contraceptives? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with abolishing the day after pill, the morning after pill, Plan B. I think we need to keep those tools in the toolbox, okay? For women's health, women do have a right to have those things. But what they don't have a right to do is wait many weeks and then be selfish and then kill a child in the womb. That I don't believe they have a right to do, because I believe once that child is in there and forming and its heart's beating, I believe if you abort it, you are committing murder.
Okay.
But I think if you are responsible, you'll never put yourself in a position where you'll ever have to commit murder.
So
just use Plan B.
question, what is that? Rape, incest.
Rape, incest. So, man, that's a tough one.
Question is, a lot of pro-lifers say you're still punishing the wrong person.
Well, it's still not the child's fault. Rape and incest is wrong, obviously.
But
I believe we should bring back the death penalty. If you rape a child, I don't think 5-10 years in jail. Bring back the death penalty for that. Let's put it that way. I don't think rape and incest should happen in this country. I think it's totally wrong.
You think the penalties are so lax?
I think the penalties on rape and incest is totally lax.
So,
and it needs to be cracked down on.
So if an innocent mother has been raped or some unfortunate situation where there's incest, and they find out they're pregnant.
So that's found out many weeks later. The young child who's pregnant didn't know.
I'm just trying to find
Yeah.
where there's any common ground. Is there an exception? Is there,
There-
I'll tell you, my sister had a couple open heart surgeries.
Mhm.
So they said, if you get pregnant,
You
we
could die.
immediately have to terminate this thing.
Gotcha.
Because you cannot
Gotcha.
carry baby.
Okay, so in the situation where you know for sure, based on medical guidance, that you will die if you have this baby, I don't believe that it's in that situation wrong to terminate the child. In a sense of rape and incest, and a young child is raped, she didn't know she was pregnant, but it's been found out many weeks later. In that situation, it might be, I still think it's wrong to terminate a child no matter what, but in that situation, it might be the right thing to do.
So we'll leave it there. I just wanted to get that on the record.
Mm-hmm.
Next little social issue we're going to hit real quick. Guns. You know, we hear about
2A, baby.
we got the Second Amendment is
Yeah,
a big thing here.
we love it.
Everyone has pictures if they're on the Republican side with the
That's right.
AR-15 or
Mhm.
whatever.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, are they just photo ops? What is your relationship with guns? What is your situation? What is your belief? I don't want to give you, I don't want to lead you anywhere, but just tell me if I'm a 19, 20-year-old person who I'm being told in school to believe certain things about guns, and I want to know.
Guns are not dangerous, people.
Okay.
Are cars dangerous? I mean, if you drive a car down the road and you don't know how to drive that car, it's dangerous. But they're not dangerous. Cars are not dangerous. The person driving the car is dangerous if they don't know how to drive the car. If you don't know how to use the weapon, you can be dangerous to yourself. You can harm yourself or those around you if you don't know how to handle a weapon. I believe that we should be better trained to use guns. I think we should be raised to use guns from a young age, like I was. And if you're taught how to use guns and not to be afraid of them from a young age, then they're just a tool for your toolbox. I mean, you know, if you're a framer, you got a hammer. That's your tool. If you know how to swing it, you're going to swing it effectively. You're not going to hurt people. You're not going to hit your hand. You're not going to hurt yourself.
So I want to dovetail this Second Amendment right into the school safety.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's hardening. This is the news. I mean, it's ironic that there was some big noise coming out this last few months saying, "Hey, if you just hardened your targets, then they wouldn't be so easy for people to get to." That's ironic. They do that to the banks. We protect our banks. We protect our money, but we should protect our kids. So I know in our budget we put in this last year, we put I think 50 million, or maybe I'm wrong on that number. I don't have it in front of me, but they put quite a bit into hardening our schools and safe schools.
We need to implement technology in schools.
Okay.
Obviously, we need cameras on the outside of the schools in the entry points. I think we should limit it to one entry point to get into the schools. Obviously, all the schools have emergency doors, so they all open out. So if there's a fire, everybody can get out. But we want a situation where there's only one door they can come in and come through. For example, Robson Elementary, where my sons went to school. There's one way in that school, there's one way out, and there's 12-foot tall gates around the entire school. That is a hardened school. But I also think it needs security. I think we need to have either a paid security officer, or we could use volunteer, retired police, retired military, and then they could come in and put a couple of days of volunteer work in a week, and then maybe we can ensure them to be legal to have a gun on property, at the school, so that if they ever did get in a gunfight with a bad guy, they're not going to get sued or end up in jail because they're trying to protect the kids.
So the question I would then ask on a follow-up to that is, we're hardening our schools. The one thing I didn't catch from you was we have to change our gun situation. We have to change our gun rules. We have to change our gun laws. Do we need to ban guns?
No,
Do we need to
no,
ban?
we don't need to ban
Because
guns.
I'll tell you,
No.
that's been the go-to. I mean, we just heard about the former prime minister being killed over Japan.
Right.
And the very
He was
first
assassinated.
thing, right.
Trump's buddy. Assassinated.
Right. But
Yeah.
we found out by our current president, the thing that was said in the remarks was, this is a gun control problem.
No, it's not.
So, for those 19, 20 years old that are just trying to figure out what the heck is going on in this world, we find out that a prime minister just got assassinated by a homemade gun, right? And we're being told that it's a gun problem. I just asked you about school safety, and the one thing you didn't mention was a gun problem. So are you telling me that it's not a gun
We
problem?
don't have a gun problem in this nation. We have a loss of our moral fabric. We used to have morals. We were raised with guns. I mean, if you go back to the 50s, kids were going to high school with a gun in the back window of their truck. They weren't shooting the school up in the 50s, but they had better moral character in the 50s than they say do today. It's the moral character, it's the moral fabric that's been eroded. That's why we have the mass shootings. That's why we have people running people over with cars at parades. That's why we have, irresponsible behavior on a large scale. It's not so much a gun problem as it is a mental health problem. We need to increase funding for mental health. We need to change how family court is done. I mean, I think fathers need to be part of their children's lives. I think that would help a lot as well. I think a child is not a full child unless they've had both parents in their life. I think the breakdown of the moral fabric of America is a big part of it. I think we need better character. Guns aren't going to solve the problem. If you look at Chicago has the most shootings in the country, but yet it has the most gun control laws in the nation, but yet they have the highest instance of shootings and killings.
So more laws don't solve
More laws don't solve those problems. More guns actually create a situation where when more good guys have guns, there's usually less people willing to go out and commit mass shootings in an area that is pro-gun. Like in Arizona, we don't have mass school shootings, but you do get it in certain areas. That Uvalde in Texas, that part of Texas, that area of Texas is a Democrat stronghold. It's happening in Democrat strongholds. If it were to happen in this state, my guess is it'd happen in Tucson. Because
that's
Tucson,
a pretty big statement. I mean,
yeah,
saying that.
yeah. If it was going to happen here, it'd happen in Tucson because Tucson has some gun control laws.
I would like to check the date on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, on its face, that's what you're telling me. I think it's a pretty big statement.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap up this interview with a few things for me to try to learn more about you and your priorities.
Sure.
So, the governor sets the legislative priorities. That's normally how it's supposed to work.
You got to lobby your legislature. And you got to work with both sides.
What are your top 4 priorities?
Top priority is to cut wasteful spending.
Okay.
That's my top priority.
Okay.
Because we need to cut wasteful spending. Second priority, secure our border. We need to secure our border.
I was going to go there next.
We need to do that. Okay, we'll go there next. All right. Third priority is water. We really do need to look at water development resources.
Water, food, and the border.
And
last 3 were
the last one, in my opinion, we need to work on, like I told you before, trades. We need to focus on developing vocational learning. That's a huge one.
So, got it. So let's jump into the first one. So let's talk about the border. Do we have a problem with the border?
We have a huge problem with the border.
What's the problem?
I've been working on the border for the last 17 years, and I've seen the human smuggling, I've seen the trafficking, I've seen the trash, I've seen the condoms on the ground. Women are getting raped as they're being brought over. Part of the process of bringing some of those women over is, hey, they make deals with these men and these coyotes and stuff, and they say, hey, if we're going to bring you over, we're going to impregnate you, and we're going to send you over there, and you're going to have a kid, and we're going to do this and that, and you're going to send welfare back to Mexico, you're going to collect welfare for the child, and you're going to send money back to Mexico. There's a huge thing going on where a lot of money's getting sent back to Mexico and back to other countries. I think a way to stem some of that would be to tax it before money leaves the country. So a lot of people are Western Unioning money back to their home countries, right? I think we need to tax that at a 50% tax rate.
If it leaves our country,
it's hit with an Arizona tax of 50%.
Oh wow!
Or it doesn't leave the country. When you want to bring money into the country,
so you're saying keeping the commerce,
and keeping the money here. they're sending too much of our money out.
So
That's
how
a
do we-
motivating factor for them to come here to send money back. We need to stop the motivating factor.
So the magnet.
That's right.
Turn the magnet off. All right. So what's your next step? What's your next?
Next step is finish the border wall I've been working on for the last 17 years. We have a 25-mile stretch of Arizona state land that we can put the wall up on. The steel's sitting at Stinger Steel in Coolidge, Arizona. And I propose if I have to jump in a semi-truck myself and truck it to the wall, just to get the wall restarted and going again, that's what I'll do.
And you believe the wall will?
The wall is one tool in a toolbox. There's other tools. I believe we need to build 3 strategic National Guard border barracks where we can house the Arizona National Guard in Yuma, in Douglas, and in Nogales.
Okay.
In those areas, we'll have constant militarized presence. They're not going to be there armed, to shoot at people coming over the border. We're not going to do that, like Kerry said. But what they're going to be there to do is in an assistatory manner. They're going to be there to assist the Border Patrol in processing people that are coming in illegally. They're going to assist with and build up and maintain drone technology, facial recognition technology, and seismic technology that we're going to put in the ground. So that when these professional miners that work for the cartels try to tunnel under, we're going to detect where those tunnels are. We're going to drill down, we're going to fill them with cement, we're going to stop it. Kerry said we will blow the tunnels up. I'm not willing to blow up tunnels and risk the lives of women and children coming in from all over the world, from different countries. If you're willing to do that, Kerry, that's your thing. But I'm not. But if I must say, we do need to fill it with cement. And if people are walking down that tunnel to get into the United States and they start seeing cement flowing their direction, they're going to be smart enough to turn around and walk the other way. Once that cement hardens, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to chip the cement out of the way. Cement's pretty hard.
Yeah. And from my understanding, that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
They're filling them.
When we find them. But see, we don't have the seismic technology.
So the
We
technology
need the
is-
technology.
The technology
To detect the tunnels.
The change of.
It's to detect the earth as they're drilling under, and we can know that it's the vibrations are happening. We can know where to go, where to detect, drill down to the tunnel, fill it full of cement. We need to be more strategic in how we locate the tunnels. We need to be smarter about it.
So
Now,
you're saying there's a different system that we're not using.
there's a different system that we're not
We're
using.
reaction. If I'm just trying to hear you right, we're reacting to.
We're reacting to tunnels that we find rather than finding them.
Okay.
Also, we need to do what Matt Salmon said. I'll give him credit for that. He said we need to do tent cities. I agree with that. We can do tent cities next to the National Guard border barracks, giant tent cities, where we would have the power, as Arizona governor, I would issue a declaration to protect our border. And as Arizona governor, I can hold those illegals indefinitely in these tent cities, but they'll have a choice. You can open the door in the wall that we'll have next to the tent city, and you can walk back into Mexico and then fly back to your home country, wherever that is. Or we're going to hold you indefinitely until the federal government adjudicates you. And you know how long the federal government's going to take to adjudicate these people.
Years.
It could be 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah.
These people are going to get tired of waiting. They're going to leave. So if we can't do remain in Mexico, remain in the tents indefinitely. We aren't going to truck you
And that would be
and
in
bus
the Scott
you.
Neely administration.
That'd be in a Scott Neely administration. We're not going to truck you or bus you into the interior, into Delaware, into D.C. We're not doing that. What we're going to do is hold you indefinitely until you choose to leave, and you're going to leave. Trust me.
So let's wrap this up
Yeah.
with the last 2 things that you listed as top priorities. We know that we are having some serious problems with water in Arizona.
Huge.
I can put the graphics up on the screen with some information to tell you that water problems in Arizona are at an all-time high.
We have so many tools to solve these problems.
So talk to me right
All right.
now with the act that's been emergency act that's been put on the water. Arizona's been hurt the most.
We're in a stage 3 drought right now.
And what's happened is the farmers are having to what's called fouling their land. Which
That's right.
They don't plant because they can't water it.
That's right.
Therefore, we're having food shortage. So these are compounding problems. In the Scott Neely administration, we know that Arizona's old motto is whiskey's for drinking or water's for fighting, right? So
Listen, you can go without
Talk to
food
me.
for a while. The human body can go without sustenance for a while. It cannot go without water for more than a few days.
So what's
Water
the
is the most important thing
What's the
to the
song?
people of Arizona, especially in this dry, arid climate we have. Number 1, we need to do forest management. You want to increase our water supplies and our aquifer supplies and our rivers and our lakes in Arizona? That's what you do. Most people don't believe only 12% of our water comes from the Colorado River. 70% of our water comes from northern Arizona forests. People don't realize that. But what's happened over the last 150 years ago, we had 11 ponderosa pines per acre. We now have 1,100. We used to do logging. We used to manage the forest. The Native Americans in the White Mountain Reservation, they still log and manage their own forest, and they keep the trees far enough apart that the fires can't take over and completely incinerate the forest. We need to do proper forest management. We're having a massive infestation of bark beetles because the trees are all sucking off the same water sources. There's too many trees sucking off of them. The trees are drying out. When the trees dry out, that's when the bark beetles get in there, hollow the inside of them out, and then the trees are no good to even log.
Right.
What we need to do is we need to get rid of the organic waste in the forest. We need to do logging again, maybe chop out about 500 trees per acre, turn it into cash, use that to fund teachers in the schools, not administrators.
Okay.
And then what it'll actually end up doing is a lot of that snowpack, instead of soaking into the trees, it'll actually get down into the aquifer, back into the lakes and rivers, and increase our Salt River Project water supplies by 10% roughly if we cut out half the trees. That's solution number one. Let's go to solution number two. Doug Ducey, Kerry Lake, and many others have said, let's build a desalinization plant within Mexico. I think that's totally wrong. I am totally against it. We currently have a desalinization plant that was built in 1992 by the Army Corps of Engineers for the farmers in Yuma, Arizona, to desal low salt Colorado River water that has, because a lot of the farming runoff runs into there and makes it a little salty. So we've got that desal plant set up there for the farmers to desal that water. And then before we send it, the rest of the water.
Do that for the whole population.
What I'm saying is pipe the water in from Mexico to that location, make that location 10 times bigger, use the Israeli high-end filtering technologies that we're not using there now. It's a way better filtering technology. Use that technology, make the plant bigger, pipe in millions of gallons of water from the Sea of Cortez in Mexico. It will not cost as much to pipe in dirty salt water as it would to pipe in clean water. And then we'll have operational control of our own desal plant. We won't even have to worry about it being poisoned. It could be poisoned, if it was coming in clean from Mexico. Or people could steal it out of the piping, just like they steal oil out of the piping that goes into Juarez, Mexico from Texas. Because a lot of cartels, they steal oil out of the pipelines over there. I don't want them stealing our water supplies. I don't want the corrupt Mexican government controlling our water energy resources. And I don't want our politicians here getting kickbacks because they put a desal plant in Mexico. I want oversight over our own desal plant right here in Yuma, Arizona, creating jobs for Arizonans. That's what I want.
Okay.
Common sense solutions.
Makes sense to me. Listen, that's our time today. So I want you to spend the next 2.5 minutes, look right into the camera, give your pitch, tell the viewers right there for HYFNTV and the update, tell them why you're the guy.
Camera here?
This camera right here.
All right. So my name is Scott Neely. As you know, I'm running for Arizona governor. I had a third water solution, so I'm going to go to that now. My third water solution is we actually have the equivalent of 3 Lake Powells, 3 full Lake Powells, not slightly empty like it is now, underground in the Harquahelas, west of Buckeye. We can develop that. It's also a salt water. It's a little salty. It's not as salty as the Sea of Cortez water. It's about half as salty. We can actually drill down 1,500 feet, and we can develop that water source and turn that into a desal plant too, and then pipe water from there to Phoenix as well. That's another solution. I would like you to vote for me in the August 2nd Republican primary. You can find out more about my solutions on Neely4governor.com. That is NEELYFOR governor.com, where you're going to find common sense solutions to how all Arizonans can work together in unity to solve Arizona's problems so that we can continue to grow our economy in the state of Arizona and be a magnet for people from all over the country to come and join us in our fight to make Arizona the greatest and fairest state in America. I also am in support of HB 2289, and I'm the only candidate for governor that signed the Election Integrity Declaration because I believe that we need to make all elections free and fair for both parties so that people will be motivated to run for office and serve, because we need motivated, hardworking people like myself from the middle class to want to actually donate their time and their efforts to the people to do what's right for all people and not just the elite class. So please vote for me in the August 2nd Republican primary. Thank you.
All right, Scott, thank you so much. And we'll be checking out the other candidates coming up. We have the other candidates for Republican and Democrat, and some more programming notes. We will be interviewing the Secretary of State's candidates and the Attorney General candidates. So we want to make sure you viewers have an idea of who is asking for your vote at the top of our government in Arizona. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you go vote.